her fight. He was rapping. He got paid to do that. He wasn't coming out there for free, okay? And so he's trying to get his name back in the spotlight.
What if the biggest loss here wasn't love at all, but money? According to Tasha K, this situation goes way deeper than heartbreak or embarrassment. This is about millions, about trust turning into access, and about how power shifts the moment emotions cloud judgment. That's why Tasha K isn't sympathizing, she's clowning. In her breakdown, Claressa Shields didn't just lose a relationship. Allegedly, she lost financial control, opportunities, leverage, and possibly money she may never get back. Once Tasha K started connecting the dots, this stopped sounding like a messy romance and started looking like a setup disguised as love. Tasha K didn't come with tears or soft language. She came with sarcasm, disbelief, and one brutal question. How do you let someone with nothing to lose walk away with everything you built? According to the claims, Papoose didn't just benefit emotionally, he allegedly benefited financially too. Access to accounts, lifestyle upgrades, quiet withdrawals, none of it raised alarms until it was too late. And that's why Tasha K's tone matters. She isn't clowning Claressa because she's weak. She's clowning her because she was too confident to be careful, too successful to think she could be played, too loud defending loyalty that may never have been mutual. When confidence replaces caution, people stop checking the fine print. What hits harder is Claressa's image, disciplined, strong, controlled, the last person anyone expected to be financially outmaneuvered. But according to Tasha K, that's exactly how it happens, not to the naive, but to the sure, the ones who believe love couldn't possibly cost them anything. Tonight, we're breaking down what Tasha K claims was taken, how access allegedly became advantage, and why this isn't framed as a breakup anymore, but as a financial lesson learned too late. Losing love hurts, but losing millions, that's when the jokes stop and the warnings begin. The story, according to the narrative, isn't about flashy gifts or public displays. It's about quiet permissions granted during trust mode and never fully monitored once emotions take over. Money doesn't vanish in dramatic moments. It moves slowly under the radar while everyone's focused on love. Access came first, then comfort, then normalization. Once something becomes normal, it stops being questioned, and when it stops being questioned, it becomes exploitable. Tasha K argues this is how successful people get caught off guard, not by force, but by familiarity. What makes this angle hit even harder is how it contradicts public perception. From the outside, everything looked controlled, confident, and stable. Behind the scenes, however, decisions were allegedly being made emotionally, not strategically. Accounts were shared, responsibilities merged, oversight softened, trust felt earned. That's when leverage shifts, quietly, without anyone noticing. Tasha K's criticism isn't about generosity, it's about vetting. She questions why safeguards weren't in place, why professional distance didn't remain intact, and why someone who built their wealth through discipline would relax that discipline in their personal life. According to her, that's the most expensive mistake you can make, assuming success in one area protects you in all of them. Timing also matters. The benefits allegedly flowed before the commitment was secure, before protections were formalized, before intentions were proven over time. When a value is given before a structure, the structure rarely catches up. And once the relationship fractures, untangling finances becomes messy, quiet, and often irreversible. This is why Tasha K isn't framing this as heartbreak. She frames it as a lesson. Confidence can become complacency, and emotional loyalty should never replace financial boundaries. Money doesn't care about feelings. It only responds to access. By the end of this part, the question isn't who loved who more. It's who had the keys and who should never have been given them. According to Tasha, the biggest mistake people make is treating this like a messy breakup instead of a business failure rooted in emotion. Love didn't create the damage, misplaced trust did. And once you frame it that way, the story stops being sympathetic and starts sounding instructional. Tasha argues Claressa Shields wasn't targeted because she was vulnerable. She was targeted because she was successful. Success creates opportunity, not just for admiration, but for access. When someone enters your life and immediately benefits from your momentum, the question isn't whether they care, it's whether they're contributing or consuming. According to the narrative, the imbalance was there from the start. Love stories usually involve sacrifice on both sides. In this case, the sacrifice appeared one-directional. Claressa put up money, lifestyle protection, and public defense, while the return on that investment remained vague. Promises instead of structure, loyalty talk instead of paperwork. Tasha calls that risk, not romance. This is where Papoose's role becomes critical. Tasha doesn't accuse him of dramatic theft. She frames it as something quieter and more dangerous, benefiting without accountability. When someone gains financially through proximity and trust, then exits cleanly, the loss isn't accidental, it's structural. Structure always favors the less emotional planner. According to Tasha, Claressa didn't just lose money, she lost positioning, leverage, and the ability to control the exit. And exits are where the real damage happens. Anyone can look generous when things are good. The test comes when things fall apart. Her tone is harsh, not because she dislikes Claressa, but because this is a warning for every successful woman who thinks love excuses paperwork. Feelings don't protect assets, boundaries do. By the end, the question sharpens again, not who played who, but why wasn't success protected the same way it was earned? Tasha highlights what makes this story uncomfortable. It's not flashy, it's not obvious. There wasn't a single dramatic withdrawal or an overnight disappearance of millions. Instead, there was something far more dangerous and common: slow leakage. Consistent access to lifestyle, accounts, and decision-making space means money doesn't need to be stolen. It gets quietly redirected, expenses subtly shift, and financial control slowly slips away. Responsibilities change hands. Costs that once belonged to one person become absorbed by the other. According to Tasha K., this is how wealth erodes quietly, without alarms going off. Lifestyle upgrades are often the first indicator, not purchases in Claressa's name, but spending that benefits someone else indirectly. Housing, travel, support systems, image maintenance. When someone's quality of life improves without a matching increase in personal income, that gap is being filled by another person's success. Over time, that gap adds up. Another point Tasha emphasizes is opportunity cost. Claressa's money wasn't just spent, it was tied up. Financial focus shifted from growth to maintenance, from investing in herself to sustaining a shared reality that didn't have equal contribution. That's money that doesn't come back cleanly after a breakup because it wasn't documented as a loan, a contract, or a business agreement. It was framed as love. Tasha also highlights something rarely discussed: decision fatigue. When emotions are involved, even highly successful people stop making cold, strategic choices. They delegate, they trust, they assume alignment. That's when someone else starts steering, not maliciously, but conveniently. And convenience always benefits the person with less to lose. This is why Tasha says the damage won't show up in one headline number. It will show up in what Claressa could have had if those years of resources and focus had stayed protected. Lost momentum, delayed moves, missed investments. That's where the millions really disappear. By this point, Tasha's message is clear. This wasn't a robbery. It was a reallocation enabled by trust. And reallocation hurts the most when you realize you approved it yourself without ever seeing the full cost. According to her, the most damaging part of this situation isn't a number on a spreadsheet. It's the shift in power that happened quietly while everyone was focused on the relationship. Money can be rebuilt, titles can be reclaimed, but power handed over informally is much harder to get back cleanly. Claressa didn't just lose funds, she lost control over decisions that should have remained exclusively hers. When trust replaces oversight, influence expands. Decisions about spending, timing, appearances, and priorities slowly stop being solo cause. And when that happens, your leverage in both love and business weakens simultaneously. This is why Tasha frames the story as a lesson about proximity. Proximity to wealth creates influence without paperwork. Influence becomes expectation. Expectation becomes entitlement. And entitlement doesn't announce itself, it settles in. Once that cycle begins, the person with more to lose ends up negotiating life from a compromised position, especially during a breakup. Exits expose everything. While the relationship exists, compromises feel mutual. Once it ends, those compromises reveal who benefited most. A clean exit on one side and financial or emotional cleanup on the other is the clearest indicator of imbalance. Tasha's tone is harsh, not to humiliate, but to hold people accountable. She believes stories like this repeat because successful women are taught to trust emotionally, protect financially, and then shamed when they do. Her message is blunt. Love doesn't require losing command of your resources, your time, or your future. By this stage, the story stops being about who did what. It becomes about what was allowed, access, influence, and erosion of boundaries. And once you recognize those allowances, the path forward changes. The biggest lesson here isn't heartbreak, it's that power should never be the price of love. What Tasha K is really calling out isn't just a bad relationship, it's a pattern. Success creates access, access creates entitlement, entitlement quietly shifts power away from the person who earned it. This isn't about embarrassment, it's about awareness. Once you see how power can move without paperwork, you start recognizing it everywhere. This story isn't meant to clown Claressa Shields for loving hard. It's meant to warn anyone winning publicly but trusting privately. Because the most expensive mistakes don't happen when you're weak. They happen when you're confident, when you believe your strength protects you from being taken advantage of, when you assume love will never ask for more than you're willing to give. That's the part Tasha K keeps hammering home. Money can be replaced, power has to be reclaimed. Once someone else influences your decisions, your resources, and your direction, the damage isn't just financial, it's structural. And fixing structure takes time, distance, and brutal honesty with yourself. Now the question is yours. Was this a lesson learned too late, or could this situation have happened to anyone in love? Where should the line be drawn between generosity and protection? And why do we still shame people, especially successful women, for trusting instead of questioning the systems that let trust turn into loss? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Keep it thoughtful, not personal. If this breakdown helped you see the deeper layers behind the headlines, like the video so others can find it. Share it if you believe financial boundaries are a form of self-respect. And subscribe for more long-form breakdowns that focus on patterns, power, and the quiet moves that matter more than public drama. Because love should add to your life, not quietly reallocate it.